We're talking about Strange New Worlds 102, Children of the Comet, on this episode of Star Trek Universe. There will be a few words from our mystery sponsors, then we'll dive into this new Trek content. So, pretend you're a corn farmer, and keep your ears peeled.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where, these two guys talk about Star Trek all the time. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
How you doing, bud?
I'm all right, man. You know, I was shocked, I say, last week to realize that last week's episode was number 150.
Of what?
Of our show, of this show.
Oh, of this show. Sorry.
Yeah.
You said last week's episode, there were two episodes last week. I was like, I don't know.
Right.
Of Star Trek. And I was like, 150 of what? Like new Trek?
Of our podcast.
That makes sense to me. That's crazy. Yeah. Pretty wild, man. Yeah, I was looking at our numbers recently, like the number of episodes, because I was kind of glancing at all of the podcasts on the network, and I realized like there's the MCU cast has the most, at least in my account or whatever. But then I looked and ours is the next one. Like it's like there. We've got a whole lot of episodes on this thing. Yeah,
like DC on Screen just hit 660.
Nice. Getting so close to the evil that we've always known you are.
What?
666? I don't know.
Oh no. The real. I think the real mark of the beast is like 616. There was a mistranslation, but
yeah.
Sorry, Slipknot.
Man, well, that's great, dude. Yeah, the MCU cast is somewhere in the 700s now, but I don't know exactly.
MCU's in that old 700 club, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. We love Pat Robertson over there.
Yeah, I was about to say, is it Pat Robertson, that weird religious bigot?
Oh no, we're at 691.
Oh,
we just edged you guys out because you guys were ahead. You guys had more than us for a long time. Because you guys used to do like 5 a week. Then you dropped to 1.
And now we do like 2 a month.
Yeah. One or two, one a week, and then sometimes less. And then we're doing 3 a week right now because there's just been so much fucking content.
Yeah.
Iron
sharpening iron, man.
That's right. We better, you better get to it, man. We've inched ahead in the real thing that matters, quantity.
That's right.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's talk about some Strange New Worlds.
Sure.
Should we? Would you like to go first with your thoughts, or would you like me to go first with my thoughts?
I can go first. I thought that this week was a lot better.
Oh yeah, good
to me. That said, I was still bored most of the time. But I do really like them bringing in Uhura's humming into the plot, as it was a thing the character did a lot on TOS. Even though it was really obvious that they were setting it up to play into the plot from the very beginning. You know, when she's like humming, I'm like, oh, she's next up on the away team roster. Cool. She's gonna be like, what do I do? And then she's gonna hum, and they're gonna crack the case.
No,
and that's exactly what happened.
That was not in my brain when that all happened. At least at that point. Obviously, when the the noise responded to music, I was like, oh, there we go. And then it was clear that music was going to be the thing, which I loved. I loved Uhura being good at music. It makes total sense. People that are really good with languages, a lot of languages are tonal. And so people that are good with languages are often good with music as well. So
she used to hum and sing on the original series. So it was a nice little tie-in.
That's rad. I dug it. I dug that a lot.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe her tragic backstory about her parents and everything was from the books, but I can't remember which one, and I might just be making that up. But it was nice to actually get, after what is it, 60 years to actually get some kind of backstory on Uhura.
Yes, she suddenly has a character now. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about New Trek. They are all about building characters, and so or at least attempting to, giving them things to do, giving them backstories, motivations. Unlike the old series was a lot more like you learned about their characters through their actions, which is also very valid. But it's interesting that in a couple of episodes you can get kind of more story from a character than you've had in 50 years or whatever.
Yeah. And I like there were a couple of little touches, like, my wife was asking about Sam Kirk, and she's like, is that Kirk's brother? And I was like, you remember Operation Annihilate, where with the flapjacks on Spock's back that turned him blind? Or actually, they didn't turn him blind. The radiation they used to kill the flapjack turned Spock blind. But there's this scene, like, the reason they go is because they got an SOS from Sam Kirk's wife, Kirk's sister-in-law. And when they get there, they find Sam dead. And he's, like, laying on his stomach, and they turn him over. And we see it's William Shatner with a mustache. Mm-hmm. And they totally did the shot where he gets shocked by the egg and flies backwards and, like, lands on his stomach. And they're like, turn him over. And I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
I really liked that. Yeah, hated the sometimes you have to laugh thing with Spock. It may have been something they would have done on TOS. Still didn't like it. But I thought it was a pretty strong episode in some regards. Like, I liked the whole, like, seeing your future thing. They thematically, they were showing, like, there was always, like, the predestination with the comet to give life to the planet, and not destroy it. There was the whole bit with even, like, forecasting Sam Kirk's fate by showing him, like, fall on his stomach and then having to turn him over. Like, that is forecasting the fate, and, like, tying in with Pike. Maybe the fate is what he makes it. Maybe it's not. Maybe he can fight what's coming. I enjoyed all that. I really did. There wasn't much that I just, like, really, it just kind of dragged to the middle a bit for me.
Yeah, and him looking at those 5 cadets that he knows that he'll one day save, or 5 children at this point, and knows that one day they will be cadets that he saves, and him deciding that, like, he's not really trying to fight his future, because at this point it's not about whether he can or can't. It's that, like, he's not trying to, because he knows he will experience such a horrible thing, but he knows he will do it for purpose. And he's, like, making that purpose part of his life by looking up those 5 crewmen all the time. I think that's
right,
kind of beautiful.
Well, the only part that I didn't like about that was that earlier on he named those 5, and he's like, I can go on, and at the end he just named those 5. Like, he had more people in his head, more children that he saves in his head.
Oh, I thought it was only those 5.
No, he said 5, and then he said I could go on. He listed 5 people and said I could go on.
Okay, I hear you. I think he might have meant something else. Like, he might have, I can go on, like, I can expound or something. I can't remember that line, but yeah. Because I think there were specifically 5, both in Discovery and this.
Okay.
I think. Not 100%.
Yeah.
But either way, it's just like a cool character thing to have him, like, just decide, no, I'm sticking to the plan because I'm a Starfleet captain and that's what I would do. Like, that's what I will do because that's what I will do, Love it.
I mean, if it was like Kirk over here cheating death, Kirk would have been like calling up the station, making sure it was abandoned. No one will ever be stationed there.
Yeah. Yeah, there are ways around that, like there are ways you could send those cadets somewhere else or whatever.
Yeah. Like, yeah, but the time crystal said that you had to do it. I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
That actually would be amazing. Like, you talk about you wanting this to be an alternate timeline and all that stuff.
Sure.
That would actually be an amazing way to do it, is to end Strange New Worlds with him making the decision to not, like him finally choosing the third Kirk way kind of thing to, like, save like he finds that he's the last episode of Strange New Worlds, he's in that chamber, and instead of, like, taking the radiation or whatever, he just, like, rounds up the cadets, gets them away, beams them out, does whatever he has to do. Or maybe he's had a plan in place all along, like the crew comes in and saves him or something like that and saves everybody. That could be a rad way to introduce a new timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be down with that. Like, it's not just about preserving canon or whatever. It's also about, like, I need stakes. I need to not know what's going to happen, because my God.
Yeah, it's hard right now when you're watching the show and almost everyone on screen, you know their destinies.
Absolutely.
But the truth is, Star Trek, the series, have very rarely been about the destinies of the crew members. They've always been about the crew members' decisions and how they decide to solve sort of the case of the week. And that seems like what this show is focused on. And so I'm kind of okay with the idea that we know everyone's... Like, I never thought, for the most part, that a crew member would die. The few crew member who do die, like the few like named like regular cast members who die on TNG, or no one really dies on TOS, right? Is there a named crew member that dies on TOS other than sort of people that are there for the week or whatever?
I mean, yeah, no one. I don't think that was really. I don't remember any that were recurring named.
Right. There's just a sort of like something about both of those shows where it's like there's just this sort of platonic ideal of like what the crew should be, and they just are that every week. And they start the same way and they end the same way. They go through a thing, they learn a thing, and then the next episode, they're back to who they were. You know what I mean? Like, that's sort of the way that those shows operated. TNG, a little less so than TOS, and I'm sure there's cases you could make for some growth, but for the most part, that's like how those shows operate, because that's the kind of non-serialized television it was. And so... If you're trying to revert back to that and tell that kind of story, it makes sense that like it doesn't matter that we know everyone's fate, you know?
Right.
And there's a few we don't, like Noonien Singh, and Transporter Chief Kyle, and well, I guess we kind of do, yeah. And then number one, we don't know what happens to number one, which I don't know. She seems like she's going to be a pretty big heart of the series, so I don't know what happens to her.
Yeah. Oh, I did like the Christine Chapel Spock flirting, by the way.
Yeah,
that's harkening back to the original series as well.
Yeah,
and I have, by the way, just in case. I mean, I know you were thinking like Dave's about to do it, and that's why I'm going to hang the lantern and say I'm sure there's some case to be made for growth. There absolutely is a little bit of growth, not a lot.
Oh yeah.
But there's that. I guess it's tough because like when you come into the original series, like McCoy and Kirk have been friends for like 12 years, 11 years, something like that.
Right.
So their friendship is pretty cemented. But there is absolutely like a progression of Spock going from calling him Captain, to calling him Jim.
Sure.
Like there is a slow progression of like becoming friends, that isn't like, they don't have like a big like CW sit down where they're like,
call me Jim now.
Weeping about,
You've earned the right to call me Jim.
Actually, I think it kind of was like there was in Amok Time when he thinks he killed Kirk.
Oh, that's right.
And then he gets back up there and he just smiles really big when he sees him and says, Jim!
That's right, yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Somebody's happy.
I love that moment. Well, getting back to this episode, I guess my thoughts are, I'm with you. I was not bored. I really liked the mystery of this thing. It's just real basic Star Trek stuff, man. And it was a good little mystery. And then it even really perpetuated that mystery with the idea that this thing knew that they were going to get involved somehow. So whoever placed this, asteroid on its path knew what it was going to do. That's a wild assertion that this episode's making.
I love shit like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like clearly some people who are like privy to, outside of space-time, stuff, but to others it's a total religious experience. And I always enjoy that, but it's still like, it felt like it gave Pike just a little bit of his faith back. Right. Where it was just like, maybe he's considering what number one is saying to be right.
Yeah. Well it's beautiful because it's like, they're looking at the shepherds and they're like, we fooled the shepherds. We got one over on them. And then Uhura does that analysis and they go, the asteroid somehow got one over on us. Like, what the hell? How did it know? And like now they're looking at the shepherds like maybe the shepherds are right. Like maybe this is a thing to be worshipped. And not to be worshipped necessarily, but a thing to be studied, to be understood because it's clearly beyond us.
Right.
Love it.
I always dig that. That kind of stuff on Star Trek. I like the ambiguity.
Yeah, me too. I love the ambiguity when it comes to deities, which is kind of, we talked about Picard last week, and that's one of the things that bothered me about this episode of Picard and how like theistic it was. Is it's just like it had two benevolent godlike creatures that are just like godlike and benevolent. Like that's all they did that episode, and I was just like, what's going on? That's not what Star Trek does.
I mean, that's what Star Trek often does, and what a lot of people who don't like any kind of God stuff say that it doesn't, including Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry is like, we don't do that. I'm like, you did it like 20 times in the original series, Gene. What are you talking about, man? Like a lot of people use that as like a big argument against DS9, which that's one of my favorite things about DS9.
Mine too.
So, yeah, I mean, I love that there's an N for Q, or maybe like a transference for Q, like some, evolution into the next phase. Or
yeah, me too. I absolutely love it. The only thing that it's just strange how like just having your main character, especially Picard, sort of almost in a bowing position to a god as the god tells him he's proud of him, and it like being such a revelatory moment for Picard. It's like, that's such a strange thing for Star Trek to do, I feel like. Because Star Trek's all about questioning. And that's the thing is, like, I love DS9, but the big part of the point is, yes, Kira Nerys has faith, but no one else on that crew does. Like, everyone else is questioning the prophets constantly. Especially their emissary. But I really just enjoyed Uhura and, like, her personality, her background. I really liked her. There are a couple things I really wanted. This is what I really wanted from this. And they went a totally different way, and I'm not going to fault them. Their way was great. But what I really wanted from Uhura in that moment, she did not want to go down to the planet. And then she went to the planet and she hated it because she was just like, this is terrible. I'm scared to death.
Well, it's not like she really went down to the planet very often on the original series. I think maybe for a reason.
Right. That makes sense. She gets beamed onto the asteroid. She does her work, and she is starting to solve the puzzle. And then they bring her back. And then they end up letting her solve the puzzle as like a post-coda kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like what I really wanted was like her to be like, I know I might get trapped down there, but like, send me back. Like I was making really good progress in that cave, and I think I can solve this. Like that wanted that like breakthrough moment for her where she was like conquering her fear of being there and like going down and realizing that she thinks she can do it. Like kind of that Chekhov from 2009. I can do it. Like moment.
I mean, I think it would have been great if she said that, and then Pike was like, "Calm down, Ensign. You can solve it here."
No, it would have. I kind of wanted that like revelation from her that like she does want to be on the planet. She does want to be in the middle of the fight. She does want to be Starfleet, basically. And I think she got there, but it was a little more through I liked the idea of her putting on herself on the line. So when they came back up, I thought for sure they were gonna like realize they could go back down and they were gonna be like, we can't guarantee the shields will stay up or stay down for us to bring you back. She's like, I know, but I think I can solve it. Send me back,
Yeah.
That would have been it would have been more dramatic, maybe even more melodramatic, but
yeah.
I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mostly enjoyed this episode quite a bit. So, I mean,
me too, man.
Like I said, it got a little sloggy in the middle for me, where it's just sort of standing around in, atmospheric suits. Like, okay.
Yeah, I loved all that. It reminded me a little bit of the best parts of the end of this last season of Discovery, when they're like solving the language of the 10C. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Them like going back and forth. I loved that stuff. And, this is very similar. And I love that, like, it's a puzzle. And I mean, even all the stuff they're talking about as a musician, like, I actually knew all of those frequencies and stuff. Like, so I was like listening to Spock talk about if you double that frequency, it's an octave. And if you go triple it, it's a third, or it's a perfect fifth. And then if you quadruple it, it's a third. Like, I was like, yeah, I know all that stuff. That is all true. Like, it was kind of neat to like see them using my field to solve a case.
Yeah. And and I don't know anything about music really. So, but for whatever, it just, all of that conversation, all that reminded me of was an episode of Modern Family where Phil is trying to sell this really weird house. And it's just like, people are like, how did we get on the second floor? And he's like, it's an imperceptible incline. and then it's like, they didn't really make sense of the house on purpose in the show. But at some point you just see him walking out of a room and he's like, it's rare to find a 5/8 bathroom, but they're in high demand, I assure you. That's all I thought about.
I love that show. Hadn't seen it in a while. Oh, man. Yeah. Good episode of Star Trek. I dug it. I really like what Strange New Worlds is doing. I know it has its issues and definitely has its canon issues, but like getting a chance to see these characters and just more Starfleet characters doing Star Trek things, not dealing with a galactic threat, just dealing with saving a planet. Not even saving a planet, giving it water. Through their actions, inadvertently giving it water. That's beautiful. A civilization will grow here because of the actions of the crew. But then also, the crew was always supposed to do it. I thought this might be like a Preservers thing at first when the...
Oh God, I'm always hoping for a Preservers thing.
Yeah, when the asteroid was meant to hit the planet or whatever, I was like, maybe this is how they like seeded life across the galaxy. Right. Maybe these shepherds are guiding a new Preserver asteroid or whatever.
Ejaculating their seed onto new worlds.
Indeed. Impregnating new worlds and new civilizations.
By the way, Persephone 5... is from a TNG episode, Too Short a Season. And this was Persephone 3, so we have visited this system before.
Neat.
Yeah, there was some other stuff, but it didn't seem interesting to me.
I guess, do we know anything about the people of Persephone 5?
I'm sure we do, but I don't remember the episode very well.
I'm just curious if they were related to these guys. Because if you get water on that planet and then they grow quickly in technology and stuff,
I mean, it would be cool if you go back and you look at it and they mentioned some, like we were the dominant species in this system until some asteroid flew through, and if they said something like that on TNG,
I was just thinking
that would be fun.
I was thinking more like if they, like if the races looked similar or something, or like if they were blue people, kicking around in the background or something.
I just said, Memory Alpha just says in 2364, Admiral Mark Jameson lived in semi-retirement on Persephone 5 prior to being called into service to help with hostage negotiations on Mordan 4.
All right. So very, very little actually about the planet.
That was mostly the episode where like that old Admiral was on and then he starts getting younger. You remember that?
No, I guess I don't off the top of my head.
It's like one of the campier episodes of TNG, in my opinion.
What did you think of Hemmer?
He was fine. Like he's played by a person who is legally blind.
Oh, really?
Bruce Horak.
Interesting. That's really cool.
So that's cool. That's a first for the Star Trek franchise, as they say. But he's I liked his character to some degree. Like from what we got of him, we got very little. I kind of like the idea of Spock just like telepathically telling him like, "Hey, I'm going to do this. Let's mess with her."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm going to throw this thing."
I liked that a lot, and I liked the whole thing of them hazing Uhura and the dress uniform. And it wouldn't have been funny if they weren't so good natured, When she goes up to Pike's door and he opens the door and he's like, "Ha, dress uniform," just like really like. I enjoy the hazing of new cadets. Just this light hazing is funny. That's pretty great.
I do love that. I really like this. Like they're doing a really good job of fleshing out Pike in a way that I really like. Like they're carrying over the character from Discovery. Like I'd love that he's the kind of dude who's going to hang out in his quarters and like cook for everyone. And they're going to have ribs, you know, like
no, I was thinking about that. Like Kirk was always kind of like not really fraternizing with the crew except his like main friends. And then Picard was not fraternizing even with his command crew. Like that's the whole point of Picard. Literally until this last week when he finally came to terms with the boy that he was. Well,
there were slow steps. He went to go play poker with him in the last episode of TNG.
No, I know. I'm just saying like he that's his whole character.
Yeah.
And so they're really setting Pike apart as like a good leader, like one who commands respect, but also is willing to have a life and be connected to the people around him, you know?
Right. Which, I mean, I would argue that, you know, very much at the beginning of TOS, there is Kirk saying like, I'm supposed to be above everything. I can't show any kind of like attachment or weakness, etc. And then, you know, then you get to, and we do see more and more connection between his senior officers in the original series. But then when you get to Star Trek 3, he's having a drink with them in his apartment. And that's a lot of what this felt like as well, is like, let's hang out and have a drink. Let's have some food. And
yeah. But even in this, he was like, he doesn't want just his command crew here. He wants normal people, as he said. He wants to know what's going on in the ship, you know?
I really enjoyed.
That was cool. And I think in some ways, I think that's just a way to get a young cadet Uhura, like, into the episode, you know, like get her into the action, as it were. But like, it works for me because it's really good character building for him as well. You know what I really thought they were going for the joke? And they didn't do it, but I really thought they were going here. They had the whole thing about, I've never understood the human inclination to laugh at others' misfortune. And then he says, like, sometimes things go so bad, you just have to laugh, Spock. And then immediately after that, Uhura tells her life story about her parents dying. I thought for sure they were going to like have Spock go, and then just all of them like, no, Spock, no. Like,
that's a data thing.
Totally. But it was just such a perfect setup for that joke, and then they didn't do it.
It didn't occur to me that they would do that. And I'm glad they didn't. Because I would have been like, oh, that's not a Spock thing. That's a data thing. Spock has no interest in being part of the human race.
I don't know. There's times where Spock tries sometimes to fit in. At times.
Yeah, at times.
Yeah, he vacillates.
Oh Lord.
Well, any other thoughts about this episode? I feel good about it. I'm excited for more.
I'm assuming we're going to have an episode where we get to know Noonien Singh. I don't like her though right now. She's really annoying to me. I don't like how she's looking at Uhura. It's not from like I don't like this actress or I don't like the writing. No, I'm sure they're making me like feel this way. You know, they're making me like, because like Uhura's trying to figure things out. And she's like over there just like glaring at her with this like hate. And then she's like, are you going to figure it out? Are you going to get us all killed?
Yeah.
Like, shut up, you jerk.
She can be a bit of a mean girl, it seems. Just a bit of a rude. She's not coddling anyone, and Cadet Uhura is still very new and probably needs a little coddling.
Yeah, I mean, she's mean, but what else can you expect from a space seed?
Indeed.
Oh, man. Get it?
I do.
Get it, Matt?
I do.
She came out of Khan's pee-pee hole. Maybe.
Unconfirmed. There are unconfirmed reports of Khan's pee-pee hole. All right. Once the show has had pee-pee hole go out over the airwaves, I feel like it's got to end.
I didn't know I'd be a 38-year-old man saying pee-pee hole in front of hundreds of people. And here we are.
Yeah, but here we are. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, I don't know where to go now.
Yeah, you killed the podcast, Dave. You killed
did it on purpose.
Podcast.
I did it on purpose. I was tired. It was time.
All right.
I know if I want to end the show, I got to talk about pee-pee holes.
That'll do it almost every time.
Peens and vahines.
All right. Joel Untrue.
Live long and pee-pee hole.
I knew it. I knew exactly what you were going to do.
You knew it. I mean, we've been doing this since we were 6. What do you want?
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.